Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, my name is Dr. Osaze Joshua Basekio Sewenge. I want to believe we are all doing great. Tonight, we'll be listening to two great facilitators, and we are calling on the first facilitator that will be talking about gender-based violence and child protection in person of Barrister Etiosa Ogiagbe. This program is being recorded and is presented to you by Plage Metaverse. Over to you, Barrister Ogiagbe.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear. Over to you, sir.
All right, thank you. I was trying to communicate and I was muted.
Okay.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm happy to be here. My name is Etiosa Ogiagbe. I will just give a brief introduction of myself before I proceed. I hope that is allowed. So,
yes, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, so I am a lawyer, a legal practitioner, and I'm also a consultant on business development support. And over the years, I've worked with various local and international organizations, both on policy advocacy, entrepreneurship development, and business capacity support. I am a certified GIZ Gopal TFC, and I am a licensed BDSP and also a certified gender-based and disability inclusion expert. I'm happy to be here this evening to learn and interact with my audience, and hopefully we are going to learn one or two. And thanks to the organizers for giving me this opportunity. So we'll just move straight right up. If you have any questions, please, because of time, you can drop them on the comment section, then it will be responded accordingly. Thank you very much. So I believe I'm using we because I'm also a student, learning never ends. I believe we've all gone through the topic of discussion today. So I will just be giving a summary review or some certain technical angles, legal angles concerning the child right protection and gender-based violence. Now, I would like for us to, first of all, understand why was there a need for the child rights to be implemented or enacted? What was the reason? What was the motivation behind it? Or is it that things were going smoothly and everybody said, okay, since there's nothing wrong or there's a lot of things wrong, let's set up an act that would provide for the rights or that would guarantee for the rights and protection of children. Why? What was the motivation behind it? Now, I would like to point out that before the enactment of the Child Rights Act and Prevention of 2003, we as a country, we were having a lot of space in our legal terminology. We call it a lot of lacuna. We were having a lot of issues addressing who and what is a child, what constitutes a child, at what age is a child, what certain rights does the child have, and how can we protect them outside the family institution and outside the religious institution. Now, take notes. We should note carefully that before the Child Rights Act and Prevention Act, which is the law that governs children and defines and spells out responsibilities and roles, what we had then in the past was the Children and Young Person Act. That was what we had then in the past. And we should also note that way before then, during the pre-colonial era, we barely had nothing that affects and concerns children of this our great country. We barely had nothing. And it also did not, spell out the specific areas to address concerning child exploitation, concerning child labor, and concerning various issues. And also, not just on child rights and protection, it also did not spell out crimes against or violence against women and children. So you could see that we had a lot of challenges, a lot of bottleneck to scale through. Hence the introduction of the Child Right Act and prevention. Now, this act basically for child protection and child right, it basically spells out the specific nature, guaranteed rights, and ways in which children can be protected. Now, what are some of these areas that this act seek to address? This act number one, clearly for child protection, the act said, okay, look, one of the ways we can protect our children from harm, especially children and women from harm, is to make sure that we have a policy law that we protect them and that we guide them from various harms along the way. And not just because this person is a child, we have to define what constitutes a child in order for maybe number one, when this person is eligible to vote. Number two, sorry, I think someone is saying they cannot hear me. Please, who can hear me? Can you signify on the chat room, please, so that we all benefit from all this thing? Please, can you hear me, please? All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Let me quickly chip in here, Barrister. We have students from
Okay.
several other countries, especially from other African countries. So I forgot to let you know that we have students from all these other countries, not just Nigerians. Thank you.
All right. All right, it's fine. It's fine. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's okay, not loud enough. I'll try to increase my voice. So, yes, as I was saying, the Child Right Act and Prevention is a law that was enacted to guarantee the rights and safety and preventive measures for children, to make sure that we have a categorized policy that protects and guarantee who a child is and how we can classify them. A good example is this. A lot of us are adults, and there are certain things we can do. There are certain rights that we have. There are certain actions we can do without the authorization from either our parents, our partners, our wife. However, do you think someone within a certain age range has this possibility? And what confers authority for someone as a child to do certain things, like voting, like going out to get certain drinks, like even consenting in marriage? So one of the legal areas, milestone that was achieved, that granted the child was to first of all identify who is a child. Identify who is a child. Was it someone, or is it someone that is age 7? Is it someone that is age 10? Is it someone that is age 15? Now, the very first achievement that was, marked by a child right, it states that a child is someone that is under the age of 18. I believe we know this, but I'm just coming from the legal aspect. The act clearly spells out, the policy, the law clearly spells out that a child is someone that is below the age of 18. And what comes along when someone is below the age of 18? It clearly states that when you are dealing with someone legally, environmentally, or business, and in business-wise, family-wise, you should first of all put into consideration the age level of that person. Is the person, number one, still a child? Secondly, is the person an adult? So in order for us to understand the concept of this, we need to reflect and see the importance that, I am moving into a business transaction, a legal transaction with this person. The first part of order is, what is the law concerning this person's age? Is this person below 18? If it's below 18, oh yes, he's a child. And the law clearly spells out how such issues or transactions can be addressed when the person is a child. And the law, again, also protects them by what it means or areas. The law, children are vulnerable. They are exposed as a result of their lack of emotional maturity. And, these are some of the reasons why it was really, really pertinent to protect them. So that, since they are vulnerable, they are not emotionally up to a certain level, they are more susceptible to various harms along the way, exploitation, even trafficking, irregular migrations, and the like. So the law came and said, okay, look, one of the ways we can address and prevent all these things from happening is to make sure that we specifically spelled out all these things. That was when the Child Rights and Prevention Act also came in to say, look, you cannot subject a child to forced labor. The act came out to say, look, in order to have any dealing with a child, again, remember the act says someone below 18, in order to have dealing with any person, otherwise contractually or otherwise, you must first seek the consent and authorization from the parent of the child or the guardianship. Yes, so these are some of the things that were spelled out, and it gave them a lot of rights for cultural advancement, rights to be named, and rights not to inflate certain marks on their image and the likes. So when we see these things, I think it will take us back to certain time past where we had situations where a child is born when he's within certain age, maybe 15, 16, 17, or 11, there are some communities, some cultures exposes them to certain cultural practices that in modern times are no longer applicable. Now, the reason why they're no longer applicable is as a result of the act, the Child Prevention Act. It's as a result of the act. That is why these certain practices are no longer applicable. A good example of such practices, the infliction of, the imprinting of excessive tribal marks, tattoos. And I believe before now, we've seen situations in time past where there were, if in certain cultures, if you give birth to a twin, one must, you know what I mean, one must either go, or it was abominable to give birth to, to give birth to more than one child at a go. See, these certain practices are practices that are time past and outdated and have been expunged from the policies that are protecting children that we have today. So we have to understand the importance, the relevance of the Child Rights Act. And again, we've noticed that in our communities, in our environment, we've seen child care center, women and child care centers. We've seen orphanage homes. We've seen certain situations where an offense legally is committed, and we know society is wondering, how are we going to try this person because he's below 17, he's below 18? Are we going to make him appear in courts openly? Are we going to try him the same way we are trying someone that committed the same act and offense, or that person is 25 years old? No, the law came again to say, as a child, you are not going to be tried the same way an adult is going to be tried. The policy, the act also created what is called special courts for children. Now, why are they called special courts? They are called special courts in the sense that there are certain privileges that this court possesses that the normal regular adult court does not possess. A good example is this. My experience being a lawyer, there are certain situations and circumstances, there are certain situations and circumstances where when we have matters relating to child, you will see the judge will give a proclamation. The judge will order non-lawyers, number one, non-lawyers, which are maybe witnesses, people that have issues in court sitting at the back. The judge, the court is going to order them. So the court is going to excuse them to leave the courtroom. Now, the reason why the court is doing this is not because maybe a fight is going to happen or maybe something bad is going to, no. It's for privacy, it's to protect the sensitive nature of the matter because it relates to a child. And also, there are some lawyers also that can be excused from that court, especially if your matter is done and if your matter does not relate to the current matter at hand. If your matter is not listed in the court list or you are done with your matter, and the court has seen that, okay, we are almost done with the business of the court, the matter remaining is to address the matter of the child relating to certain things. The court is going to give a proclamation whereby anybody who has no business with this court should please excuse this court. And the reason why that is in place is to make sure that the identity of that child is protected. That is why you don't see media houses, you don't see paparazzis, going to court during child bearing, the police also came to say, now, issues affecting children, there are certain ways they should be dealt upon with. First of all, at the time the crime was committed, does the person understand what he was doing? Does the child understand what he was doing? If it doesn't, there are certain provisions that were stated on how to go about it, how the child will be placed in a foster care system, how the child will be placed in certain affairs homes. Like a good example in Benin, where I'm from, we have certain centers that is called the Vivian Center. It's also related to gender-based also, but we'll get to that shortly. So these are certain provisions that we should understand practically, that the Child Rights Protection and Prevention Act stipulated. It gave a lot of climbing, it gave a lot of importance and stresses the need why we should understand various factors. A good example that I will mention is you should know this. I don't know. I think I should ask this question. I should ask this as an open question. Have you seen or heard of a child that has not been named in any culture? And yeah, I believe we are all from different walks of life. Have you seen a situation where from your society or from your community, a child was not named? The child was just giving birth to, and straight up, everybody was happy. Like in my culture, you see them, pouring the joyous mood. People bring out powder and they are pouring, they are happy. In the next 7 days, under the native law and custom, naming ceremony is placed. But under the English law, it takes 3 months before you do official celebration for naming ceremony. Have you seen a situation whereby nothing like that happened to someone that gave birth? Have you ever asked yourself, why do we name our children? Why is there a need for us to name our children? Where is that authority driven from? Where is that right driven from? Why must I name my child? Why? Now, the reason why you must do that, it's actually an offense if you don't. I know this may come as a surprise to some of us. It's actually an offense if you do not name your child, because the Child Rights Act and Prevention stipulates that that child has every right to be named. We should note that, please. That child has every right to be named. That is why it is really important that children outside are named. Now, when you understand these factors, you get to see, it's intertwined with also the issue affecting gender-based violence, because from what we understand, from the definition of what gender-based violence simply means, it relates to any sex, any gender, ethnicity, or race. Gender-based violence is not a singular, narrow vision manifestation of, excessive act toward a particular set of persons. However, we've seen as from records, from case studies, and from a lot of data. Even we've seen situations on social media also where we all know of someone, or we've all seen someone, or we've heard a situation whereby maybe our neighbor has a maid. Our neighbor has a maid. Apart from their own children, they have a helper, a helper or maid. It depends on what they are called. From your own area, they have a maid, and somehow you're not comfortable with the way these maid or helpers are being treated. And there are certain factors you would observe along the line. There are certain factors you will observe along the line. You would notice that, first, these maids are very young. They are very young. Secondly, you will observe that their grooming different from the household children's grooming. And sometimes you notice that the beating that some of this maid receives are not quite fair. Sometimes we get angry when these things are happening. Sometimes it's difficult for us to interfere. And you really do not like the way certain things are going. However, I would say this, that there is a provision under the Child Right Act and under the Violence Against Person Prohibition Act that states that you can actually prevent such things from happening. Number one, not by necessarily confronting the perpetrators or offenders of such acts. However, there are certain policies, there are certain mechanisms in place that you can step in. A good example legally that you can step in is by, first of all, reporting such cases or such situations so the nearest women and child center close to you. I will give my territory as a good example. The, 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 the legal procedure for such things is simple. I mentioned the Vivian Center earlier on. This is a center that is responsible for the collection and reporting of gender-based issues affecting our societies, especially in the Edo State, Benin City. These mechanisms, when you report such situations to them, that, see, I think I'm suspecting there's a presence of gender-based violence and exploitation going on in this area or society, they would by themselves take it, investigate, and report such to the Ministry of Justice. They will report it to the Ministry of Justice. Because we should note that in Nigeria, especially our legal system, the ministry is solely responsible for the collection of evidence. The collection of evidence. Their job is to prosecute. Their job is to prosecute. Now, how do they collect this evidence? They collect this evidence as a result of the mechanisms that are in place already. Now, how do you address this mechanism? It's by reporting certain acts of gender-based violence, certain acts of child exploitation, maybe where you feel there's something wrong going on. This woman is being subjected, especially to everyday acts of assaults, physical, sexual abuse, psychological torture. You know, these are the various types of gender-based violence. And you know that, this is something I can no longer keep. I need to do something, but I want to do something in a way that I don't want to address them directly. So I'm saying you can actually you can actually report this incident. You can bring the attention of this incident to your nearest civil society centers. There are a lot of organizations or Ministry of Women Affairs that you have close to you, depending what they are called or named in your specialty. It's when you do this, then they step in, investigate these matters, and they bring them to court. I personally have handled various cases concerning child exploitation. I've handled some causes and matters concerning gender-based violence. There are a lot of case studies that I would like to share, but as a result of time, it will not permit me now. How can we address these issues affecting child rights protection and prevention and gender-based? We should understand that there are causes of all these things. There's a reason why we have reported or high cases of gender-based violence. Now, some of these reasons, as you've, I believe, you've gotten from your classes before now, are clear and are true. Cultural factors is a big, significant, or substantial challenge that is affecting gender-based violence, cultural factor. We know in a society where, as a lady, as a woman, and as a child, you are to speak when spoken to. We've seen issues of inheritance. You know, gender-based violence cuts across a lot of areas. There are, you know, a lot of implied applications of gender-based violence. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, sexual. You know, we have issues of inheritance where you see that during inheritance, certain elders from different cultures will come and tell you, let's say you are the first child of your family and you're a girl. And before you know it, some elders will tell you, my dear girl, and as a girl, you are not useful to our culture. number one. And we've also seen situations when someone gives birth to a girl, you see the response is quite, the response is quite different, as if maybe the person is worthless. And you see, side talks, side comments, dehumanizing and condescending statements. This person is telling you, oh, why do you need to give birth to a boy? And as a girl, you are not entitled to inherit anything. And as a girl, and as a lady, as a woman, you are not supposed to speak when elders are talking. You are not entitled to certain provisions of your family inheritance. See, all these things are cultural forms, some of the cultural forms of gender-based stigmatization and prejudice towards females. And these are factors that, that are deep-rooted in our culture today. These are factors that are deep-rooted in our culture. If I am permitted, I would like to share a case study that we handled in Benin. Just briefly, it was a situation where the husband kidnapped the wife as a result of her being insubordinate. And by his definition of being insubordinate is the wife speaking at him in the presence of his kinsmen. Now, I know it might sound funny, or am I using the word kidnap? For married couples and partners, it is highly possible for you to kidnap your wife. The fact that you are married by law, regardless of the law that is applicable in your territory, you can actually kidnap your wife. And when kidnapping your partner, it doesn't necessarily mean you take them to a secluded, separate building inside the bush. No. When you restrict someone's movement within a period, when you illegally restrict someone's movement in an enclosed environment for a limited and specific period of time, it amounts to kidnapping. So in this case, we noticed that the man said, yeah, they were from, I think they were from some remote part in those states, and the man actually prevented the wife from leaving the house for close to a week. She was chained on her legs and she was being given corn. We know corn, like her. She was being fed corn to eat. And, these stories may be funny, but it is something whereby you see how cultural implication of I am a man and you're a woman, you're not supposed to speak to me in the presence of my kinsmen. When you do that, it is seen as a sign of disrespect, it is seen as a sign of insult. And we've seen situations whereby, you will be given to complete certain conditions, to fulfill certain conditions before you will be welcomed back to the house, either going there to buy goats, subjecting you to financial burden, starving you of some certain marital rights, and the likes. We've seen these things. So it is cultural factor. It's one of the biggest issues affecting gender-based violence or promoting gender-based violence. It is very, very deep-rooted in certain cultures. And one of the ways we can prevent all these things from happening, it's number one, education. Education matters a lot in addressing gender-based violence. Education really matters a lot because policies also is really, really important in making sure that we try to mitigate, to abate, and to prevent all these things from happening. Because when we subject our child, our wives, our sisters, associates into certain acts, it creates an unhealthy environment, an imbalanced environment, in an environment whereby an environment that will not be progressive. However, I want to point out this also, if I still have the time, I want to say this. The acts of manifestation of gender-based violence does not originally happens in our homes. Even in our work environment, it happens there too. A lot of us are, captains of industries. We are masters of our own craft. How well do we treat certain genders in our working environment, in our working space? You understand? Now, you should understand that there are policies, modern policies, that have been put in place to eradicate and to mitigate this. A good example is the labor law that was into play, the employment and labor law that was in play, that states that you must create a conducive environment for your employees. You must create a conducive environment for employees free from victimization, free from any toxic implication. And also, when addressing each and every one, they have certain rights to be respected. You do not take the way we employ male and female in our working environment matters a lot. You will see some certain establishment that will tell you, I prefer to hand over certain workload to the male because they may deliver the work better than the female colleague. What does that actually mean? If we look at it, what does it actually mean? Because we want to underscore what gender-based violence is. What does it actually mean when you prefer to work with? We've seen it everywhere, where we prefer to work with certain set of persons rather than the other, or where we prefer to promote certain aspects of persons rather than the other. But however, we thank God that there are policies that needs to be worked on that are established already, preventing all these things from happening, whereby promotion and inclusivity, whereby we have all qualified endeavors based on merit, based on whatever you are, be it your race, be it your ethnicity, and be it your gender. So it actually starts from all localities of life where we say them, from the house, from our working environment, from our culture. So these are certain factors we must specifically understood. And there's a policy also, the gender policy of 2015, yes, I believe, that actually spell out various provisions specifically. Specifically, they are not vague, they are not ambiguous, clearly on how we are to be treated, especially when it comes to respecting the child and respecting our women in the society. Because in all these factors, in all of these inclinations, if we do not have regular orientation and sensitization programs educating members of the community, especially in remote areas, rural areas, in the working environment, it will be difficult for us to mitigate these issues. So one of the preventive factors that we must put in place is to make sure we do regular orientation and sensitization programs of educating the general public on why these things are not healthy for us to have a progressive and a develop moving fast forward moving society. It is important to do this. Education too is a factor. Education too is, and economic balance too is a factor. Economic imbalance is also the cause of increase in gender-based violence. But having an economic balance on both gender will go a long way in making sure all these things are not repetitive and all. So when we consider these factors, when we look at these factors, and when we make sure that we do not underrate certain genders, thinking, oh, this one is half current, some of the things that I've heard. Oh, he gave birth to half current. Oh, he gave birth to full current. Oh, don't worry, this one is not entitled to certain things because he or she is a girl, is a boy, is a small boy. You cannot speak to elders. Oh, he's 17 years old. He cannot inherit what his family has already established while I am here, me, the uncle. Certain things. And again, the exploitation of all these things leads to, in time past, you must have noticed where some certain betrayment were happening in certain communities and societies. Then it was seen to be legal where you betrothed within a certain age, not yet an adult, you betrothed a child of maybe 13, 14, and you say, oh, look, off you go to get married to certain persons. However, the act also, even the violence against a person, Violence Against Person and Prohibition Act and the Child Right Act established excuse me, establish it clearly, plainly, without any doubt, that the betrothment of a child is illegal. It also established when someone, a child, is matured enough to consent to marriage in line with what our constitution says. I know legally, policy-wise, there are still some challenges. I believe in your class, you've considered and you've seen these challenges, and these things are staying in place. However, how do you punish offenders? I think I would conclude by saying this. How do you punish offenders of this act? Because we've just been saying a lot of things. What about the offenders of this act? Is it that the act, the Child Rights Act and Prevention Act, did not provide any punitive measures, any punishment attached to these things? Now, let me make it really clear legally. If you are found wanting, a good example, trafficking underage children, a good example, also betrothing children for acts of illegal marriage. If you are caught and you are tried in court, you will be liable to pay. I know some of us will not be happy about this. You'll be liable to pay a fine of 500,000, or you're going to spend close to 5 years in prison. However, you can do both. You can be fined for both. What does it mean? You will pay both the 500,000 and also be sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. You get it. If you are maybe called, yes, especially on marriage betrothment and the rest. For marks to excessive markings on our child, the law stipulate that you will be prosecuted, and if found wanting and guilty, you will be sentenced to 5, or you pay an option of fine and all that. So these are certain measures, these are certain areas legally that the act, mind you, the act made a lot of provisions that time will not permit us to move extensively into. The act made provisions for how the adoption of a child will go, how to adopt a child, how the transfer of guardianship, foster homes should go. And that is why you will notice that you just cannot walk into any orphanage home. Maybe if you are facilitating the adoption of a child for a client, you just cannot walk into any orphanage home and say, hey, I like this boy, I like this girl, I want to adopt this child. It doesn't work like that. The law clearly states the procedure, the process, the vetting process, the verification process, the authorization, medical fitness, and history, your criminal history, before all these things are put in place. It was the child right that provided for some of these provisions, and also guardianship. You want to be someone's guardian, how to be a legal guardian of someone, how to pass legal guardianship, and the likes. And the act also, okay, I should speak to the mic, sorry, if it's not clear enough. My sincere apologies. My sincere apologies on that. The act also, stress on the need for each and every parent to protect, provide, and care for your child. Now, this is really important in the sense that we've seen cases of abandoned children. We've seen cases of, parents telling your child that, I have brought you to this earth. It is for you to go and make money for me. I have done my part by raising you. It is for you to go and bring money for me. And you see them saying, look at your mates. Your mates are doing this. Your mate just bought a car for his mom, for his dad. What are you doing? Now, take notes. It is, you are mandated by law to provide care, to provide shelter, to provide health care, feeding to your child. So imagine you giving birth to your child and you are telling them, and since I've given birth to you, no law mandates me to protect you, no law mandates me to provide shelter for you. Your mates are the ones selling gala along expressway. Your mates are the ones doing this. I mean, no, By law, you are mandated actually to protect that child. And if by way that child actually reports you to the authority, you as a parent, you will be found wanting for it. So the child rights actually spelled out a lot of these provisions. So when we look at it, both the Child Rights Act on prevention and a lot of policies on gender-based violence, you will see that they are intertwined together, because you cannot talk about one without the other. You cannot address one without the other, because they move in the same structure and in the same line in making sure that we protect our women and children in the society. The moderator, please, do I still have time?
Yeah, I think you've really covered a lot, and that's excellently done. We will just create time for questions so that once it is 8 on the dot, we'll be moving on to the next speaker.
So all right, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you everyone for
16 minutes more to pick your questions and respond to them.
Yes, how many questions am I taking, please? So that
I can call on 3 persons or so, depending on how the questions should be very brief, just in seconds, so that you can also respond to as many as possible. But okay, right, if you are true, you let me know so that I can call those that we ask their questions.
Yes. I'm true.
Okay, thank you. So we so much appreciate your time. Yes, it was excellently placed. If you have any question, please just indicate by a raise of hand so that we can call you and ask your question just in seconds, so that you can respond to 2 or 3 questions before the end of this session. Okay, Njoku Temos. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. What's your question?
Okay. Good evening, sir.
Evening.
Good evening, yes. Mr. Njoku. Yeah.
Yes.
I thought you have a question to ask. Okay. Eze Messi Eberechi.
Okay, good evening, sir. Thank you, Mr. Etiosa, for this wonderful lecture. It was quite intriguing.
Thank you.
I work with the Institute of Human Virology in Nigeria here in Port Harcourt. We have a project targeted in schools. So we have cases, we take adolescent girls from 9 to 14 years. We have cases whereby they disclose, look at the situations at home. Like there was one that disclosed that the stepfather was trying to abuse her sexually. But the issue is the issue of consent. My question now comes in, how do we now go on to be able to proper solution? Because even when I had reached out to my supervisor, they were worried. We were having so much disclosures, but there are no referrals. Our own contact stop where we refer to the organization and they take it off from there. For some of these participants, because that we were told that without consent we can't proceed, it becomes a problem. Some are afraid of stigmatization. Some are afraid what their caregivers.
Just go straight to your question so that we can do justice to it.
Okay, my question is, do this right to talk about, does it have a part whereby you can go on even without their consent, or consent must be given before you carry on? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eze, for this beautiful question. I will just go straight to the point. Issues, crime against or any act against a child, consent is out of the picture legally, please. Because even according to the United Nations Charter on Child Protection, even the Administration of Criminal Justice Act in Nigeria clearly stipulates that a child cannot give consent. Now, I would explain briefly, what do I mean that the child cannot give consent? It simply means, if your organization have evidence, proof that that little girl was being sexually assaulted, you clearly do not need proof from the girl to proceed. I don't know if you understand. You clearly do not need proof from the lady. That is, if I get your question correctly, because a child is not legally, a child is not deemed, or I would say qualified to give or rescind consent. So if you have proof that a particular person was being sexually assaulted, and these are the medical reports, these are the eyewitness testimonies, these are what we've gathered so far, and it is really prevalent. Yes, you can take that to various organizations like your organizations that are doing, take it to the appropriate authorities, like the ministries you have in Port Harcourt, report it to them, and they will take it from there. True story. So the idea of consent does not come in at all, ma. I understand it's a big challenge because most times in my cases, we've seen situations where the parents are the ones shielding the matter. You understand? Because they don't want, as you rightly said, they don't want the area to know stigma, you know, stigmatization to follow the lady. And you know, I've seen situations where a victim mom deliberately stood on her ground to say, now, I think she was covering for the husband. The husband sexually assaulted their 7-year-old daughter. And, you know, we had medical reports. And, you know, the mom did not labor. However, the state has an overriding interest on issues relating to children. So the idea that, okay, since they're not going to press charges, when it has been brought to the attention of the Ministry of Justice, maybe via some of his proxies agencies, that matter will be taken up. The parents will be arrested because by law, the government can actually withdraw your children from you if they are not placed in a fit and proper environment to be taken care of, because you owe them the duty of care. Sorry, ma, I don't know if I answered your question. Hello?
Okay, I want to believe that you've answered that.
Yes.
I want to believe that you've answered that question. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's take the next Ruth Asekisia. Please be very brief with your question so that we can just round off with some questions before 8 p.m. Ruth Asekisia, over to you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Ruth from Ghana.
Thank you.
My question is, right from the beginning of the course, the gender-based violence, much is discussed on women and children. Do you have a policy that talk about men? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Ruth from Ghana. So gender-based violence does not necessarily translate to women only. That's why it is, even from the name gender, you can see that it encompasses both male and female, actually, male, female, children, young, old, and otherwise. And also it went across just race and ethnicity. So it does not. There are laws, specifically modern laws, new enactments that have eradicated male dominance provision. A good example, the previous criminal code, section 383, spoke plainly about violence against women. That was the only section that talked about violence against women. All other sections did not talk about anything concerning women. They were just focused on offenders, victim, male, and the likes. However, when the new law started coming out, it now looked at, okay, from the data that we've seen, people that are susceptible to gender-based violence are both male and female. But however, the ratio between both gender, it's not, you know, even. It's not even. So that is, I think that is why that is why efforts and emphasis are being placed on female, actually. So there are no specific male separate law that I am aware of currently, because, you know, laws are being passed every day. As we're having this lecture right now, bills are being drafted in our respective national houses of legislation. So I am not aware of any male-dominated or special male policies strictly for men only. So yes, I don't know if this answers your question, because all gender and policies that have, been put in place encompasses both male and female, but with emphasis on female and child. Ruth, I hope did I answer your question satisfactorily, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to believe that question was answered perfectly well. I'll call on two more persons. Yes, okay, Osaze, your hand is down. I'm sure your question has been answered. Okuboye Olushola. Please make your question very brief. Unmute yourself, please. Unmute yourself, Okuboye Olushola Shakirudi. Okay. You can't seem to unmute yourself. Okay, let's move on to Emmanuel James Tolofari. Please let your question be very brief so that we can respond to it quickly too and pick someone.
Yes, my question goes this way. There are situations where in the course of prosecution,
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, in the case where you have sufficient evidence or ground for prosecution and the state is slow to act, what do you do in that circumstance? Because there are situations.
Yes, thank you very much. To answer your question, we have to, the judicial system is not perfect. The question you ask cuts across all legal systems, most especially be it civil, be it criminal, or other matters. So in a situation where the court is slow, there's basically there are factors why the court is slow. There are factors, and as you said, it goes beyond the gradient of evidence, sir. It goes beyond the gradient of evidence. In movies, we've noticed over time in movies where someone wants to do something and the legal system is swift. And yeah, but in reality, sir, it does not work like that. It doesn't. Because there are factors that lead to the slow pace of trials in courts. Number one, availability of witnesses, sir. So the state will gather all the evidence. When they've gathered all the evidence, okay, where's the witness that wants to testify, that wants to be cross-examined, that wants to give his testimony on what happened? You notice that either that day that was adjourned for court hearing, the witness had running stomach, or the witness fell ill. These are real-life issues. The witness fell ill, running stomach, or certain factor, or even along the line, as I reacted to the first question I was asked, some just go, some get to a level of disinterest. They're no longer interested anymore. They just told, I beg, I cannot be stressing myself. My daughter is fine now. She's healed, I beg. God has protected her. So I beg. I really don't want to push the case any further. These are certain factors that lead to slow outcomes in court. And nothing can be done actually, sir. We will just have to, I think that was why, that was the very reason why special courts were created to address issues as to sexual offenses relating to child and women. Because our regular courts affecting both civil and criminal, they are all, they are all voluminous with a lot of cases. So that is why the law has to come to say, look, special courts will be created that will address all these things and it will be fast-paced, but however, justice will be delivered. But as in reality, as I've mentioned, there are circumstances where the witnesses are not present, they are no longer interested, or sometimes, acts of nature just take its course. A good example is COVID. We all know how COVID affected the judicial system. And so these are factors that lead to slow trials and proceeding or outcomes in court. And apart from court, there's nothing else you can do, sir. Yeah, so yeah, thank you. Thanks for that.
Thank you very much, sir. I want to really appreciate your time, your effort.
Thank you.
It was a big one. We'll be getting ready for the next speaker. Is going to be talking about reports writing and grants.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
and thanks to
Mr.
everyone for tuning in.
Yes, this program is being recorded. I'm sure we're going to give you a copy, so for your archive too.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, and God bless you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You too.
Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Etiosa Ugagbe. From all indication, you can see that he is loaded. For those of you that are routing to ask questions, we are going to be working towards having an advanced level of this course where you have to spend time with an expert, you do your internship, and you get a higher level certificate for courses like this. Yeah, but this level of training exposes you to information that molds you into the kind of person you want to be professionally in that area. So right now, you can also see yourself carving out an area for yourself where you can venture into this profession. It's one area you can be proud of, become a social worker, and there are so many opportunities out there actually waiting for you. It's just for you to get yourself acquainted with this information. Okay, Mr. Gold, are you here? I want to see if Gold is not here now. Okay, please just give me some few minutes. Let me be sure that our second speaker is around. Okay, in the next 5 minutes, our speaker, facilitator will be here. So let's be patient and while we wait for him. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please be patient with us. We'll be with you in a very short while. This event is being recorded, so don't worry, we're going to send it across. Okay, sorry for the delay. Our speaker is around and is going to briefly introduce himself and also talk about the topic at hand. We all know him. He has been here before. He's an excellent presenter of any topic he's given. I believe today is not going to be different. Over to you to Mr. Gold Wonder. Please, we have just 20 minutes to do your presentation. We've done most of those things in the WhatsApp class already. And then we'll have another 20 minutes of me to ask questions. And then we'll be through for today. Thank you. Over to you, sir. Yes, over to you, Mr. Gold. Can you hear me?
I work in project advisory, management, and the whole 9 years actually. So grant writing, proposal writing, and report writing, the essentials, everything you need to know about of that. So of course, grant writing is just like a crucial process that involves completing an application for financial assistance from institutions like governments, departments, corporations, foundations, or even trusts, you know, and we call it proposal or grant, but obviously I'm going to be able to show you the difference so that you can know the difference between probably when you're writing for a grant or you're making a proposal or you're even making a report. We'll talk about the essentials, we'll talk about everything you need to know. Effective grant applications requires careful planning. You know, you need to have thorough research, you need to have an in-depth knowledge of the institution you're applying to. Let's say, for instance, you're applying to Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You want to provide like electricity solutions to a particular neighborhood. You know, you cannot write to Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and tell them that you want to do a proposal to bring, let's say, generating plants to your locality because there's really no power supply. And you might ask me why. I'll tell you why, because Bill and Melinda Gates are involved in green energy, ozone layer protection, what do we call it now? Global warming activities. So you cannot write to them and be speaking to something that involves fossil fuels. Do you understand? So if you do that, you're already out because you did not pay attention to the core focus of the agency you're writing to. So effective grant writing actually requires you to make thorough, very, very thorough research. You know,
yeah, let's
understand the purpose.
Please be patient with him. I think the network from his end is poor. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Gold, we can't hear you. I think the network from your end is really epileptic. Let's be patient with him, please, while he's sorting himself out. Okay, Mr. Wonder, I think you are unmuted now. Well, I think we are having serious network issues with our presenter. We may not be able to continue with this. What we'll do is that we're going to send a recorded video of a previous Zoom session and send it to you so that you can also watch. So equally rich and well packaged. So I want to believe that will be also helpful. Okay, I think he's back. Mr. Gold, are you there? Mr. Gold, are you there? Okay, I think we'll have to call it a day. It's obvious that the network is very, very bad. And we'll be sending this recorded video. And we'll also send the other, the one for grant and proposal writing to you in the WhatsApp class. Thank you, and we appreciate your time, your patience. Fortunately, this is a force majeure, it's beyond us, and there's nothing we can do about it. Thank you, and stay blessed, everybody. Okay, before we round off, I want to quickly say that certificates will be issued starting from tonight, and that you're going to get your certificate, you're going to get a medal, you're also going to get an ebook. With that ebook, you're able to learn how to get your jobs with United Nations, international NGOs, and United Nations volunteers. It's going to be a free ebook for you, for those of you that will be getting your certificates. So, hope to see you in the class on WhatsApp now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the time.